Hello everybody and welcome to the Hexagon Suite for the Abu Dhabi HSBC Championship. Thank you, nice to see you all. A few smiley faces there. Unfortunately the sun's not out just yet, but it will be. Well, we've got quite an afternoon for you. We've got two amazing guests to chat through for a Q&A, so make sure you have your questions as well. And I'm going to invite them up onto the stage because it's not just about me today. No, it's about them. So we've got two HSBC ambassadors. The first, we've got Tim Henman there. So Tim, come on up. Round of applause, thank you. And of course, Brian O'Driscoll as well. Brian, here we go. You're to my right, you're to my left. Boo! There we go, you didn't hear it, the mic's off. Got the mic on? There's always two. They are professionals in their own right. Here we go, we've got the mic working now. Your voice carries, I'm told. You two good?
We're very good, yeah, very happy to be back. Lucky enough to play in the Pro-Am yesterday, so course is looking amazing and ready for the week.
It's a really, really fantastic course. We were at an event dinner a couple of years ago, so got to see it, but get to play it yesterday and then play with the pros and get to understand how good they are and how well they hit it and just hang out with them for 4.5 to 5 hours.
Leave a few divots out there. And
yes. And like the ground staff had a lot of work to do after I was finished up with spike marks and whatnot. But
you didn't
actually weren't that many pitch marks because I didn't hit that many greens. So you're welcome.
Of course, you played in the Pro-Am yesterday. Both of you did. Tim, you played with Colin Montgomery.
I
How
did.
was that? You know him though, don't you?
Yeah, it was good. Over the last sort of, I guess, 15, 20 years of some golf events, tennis events, I've got to know Monty, and it's brilliant to see him back out here. And he's obviously playing a lot in America on the Champions Tour over there. But he was still playing as well as ever. It doesn't look like too much has changed, and he hits it so straight. And fingers crossed he can have a good day today.
Okay, well we heard a bit about Brian's game. How was your game out there?
It was okay. I struggled on the greens. I played golf back home in December on frozen greens, which was a little bit tricky. And so to get out on these greens and the undulations and how quick they were, my putting definitely needs a bit of work over the weekend.
Well, Brian was saying, he was giving it all the kind of excuses beforehand, saying
tennis elbow.
Tennis elbow. Doesn't play tennis.
Rusty.
I haven't played for a few months.
Very busy. Hard to fit in golf.
Yeah.
When golf is your career, as it is for Tim, it's some of us aren't that fortunate. We actually have to earn a crust. So I'm not a big winter golfer, to be honest with you. The clubs usually go away in October and then get picked up again in March. Basically him. But when you come here, I'll sure to make an exception when the weather's a bit nicer. But yeah, going out and with wet gear on and your hands cold, I'd had enough of that playing rugby. I don't need it. I don't need it when it's meant to be enjoyable.
You wouldn't think he's from Ireland, would you? No, you wouldn't.
Fair
weather player. You played with fellow Irishman, didn't you, Shane Lowry? How was that?
Yeah, brilliant. I know Shane pretty well as well. Our kids are in the same school, so I see him on the school run a fair bit. So he's that said, he's just moved across to America now. They've made the decision to go across and live there. He's bought down in Florida, so he's a fantastic guy, a brilliant ambassador for Ireland, and obviously hugely successful and hoping to improve on his Open victory a couple of seasons ago, and he's had some success here a few years back as well. So he likes it out in Abu Dhabi. He likes the course here. He was playing brilliant stuff yesterday, and he's hoping for that wind to really blow tomorrow, because he's obviously a links golfer. That's where he's come from, and able to manipulate the ball and play those conditions well. So yeah, as he said, it'll cull a few people when the wind blows out here.
Maybe you're his lucky charm then, we'll see. Tim, you were quite the expert on grass courts and tennis, weren't you, as well? Would you say the transition from playing on grass to tennis made you such an expert golfer too?
I'm jealous of the fact that golfers play on grass every week. I'd have liked that in tennis, but no, I've always been a big golf fan. I started playing a little bit when I was young, and I always knew when I stopped playing tennis that I would play a lot more golf. And as Brian said, I play most days ending in Y. So back home, it's if I can play golf, then I'm happy. So yeah, the more the merrier for me.
Okay. We'll talk a little bit about tennis. We'll carry on with that. US Open, of course, Emma Radacano, what a win for her. incredible. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it there on that centre stage.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit through that, because you were there courtside, weren't you? You were a massive part of her journey. She said herself, she kept catching eyes with you on the court. And yeah, just tell me a little bit about the experience.
Well, the sort of the funny bit for me going into the event was Andrew Richardson, who was coaching her, had been with her for the sort of 4 or 5 weeks leading up. I grew up playing junior tennis with him. We first played against each other when we were 11. He was best man at my wedding, so he was someone that I knew, well. And obviously Emma, in terms of British tennis, has been on the radar for the last 8 or 9 years. But to see her, at a totally different level, coming into qualifying at the US Open, it was a great opportunity. And I think, in all honesty, if you'd have said to Andrew and Emma at that stage before qualifying, if you sign on the dotted line, you win 3 rounds of qualifying to get into the main draw, and then you lose first round, she probably would have signed immediately, because that would have been a great effort. But the way she was playing, and also her attitude, the mental side of things, she was just so focused on, one match at a time, and she would win and play so well, and she would sort of park that, and then she'd move on to the next match. And to be there for 3 weeks, in the history of our sport professionally since 1968, no one has ever qualified and made the final of a Grand Slam, let alone qualifying and actually winning it. So for her to play those 10 matches, not drop a set and win it was incredible to watch.
Tim's being very modest there, because Emma actually said you played a huge part in her journey, the US Open. She didn't have her family there, so for her it must have been nice to have that extra helping hand too.
I was probably lead cheerleader, and I chose the champagne on the Saturday night. So I think
a good job.
It was, and I think those were both very important jobs that I'd like to think I did well. But no, I just loved watching her play, and now it's amazing how much her world, her life has changed. She's obviously in Australia now, playing as we speak, and hopefully she can continue to build.
Can I ask a question? What happens on a night of a Grand Slam win like that? Obviously, besides the champagne, is it everyone into a room, or is it close family and friends? How does it kind of play out?
It was very close family and friends, but just one gate crasher, and I sort of managed to invite myself. But no, she her parents weren't able to watch. They were able to watch at home, but they weren't travelling. She had her coach Andrew there, physio Will Herbert, one person from the LTA, and IMG, her management group. So there were literally 7 of us that headed back to the hotel and she'd sort of had 3 weeks where she was eating the same food for breakfast, lunch and dinner, and the superstition that goes with that. So she was pretty ready to, have something different, sushi, and as I said, it's much better with a small group, and then you have less people to share the champagne with. So
it's a good motto. I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
How's your tennis?
Not good, but I was a keen tennis player, not a very good one, but a keen tennis player when I was young, and then golf kind of took over as a summer sport. And then actually about 5 years ago, I was going to have a rally at Wimbledon with Tim and with some of the coaches, grassroots coaching ticket, and I was so nervous, so I went and got like 3 or 4 lessons beforehand.
Not with Tim?
Not with Tim, no, but I, beforehand, quite comfortable, so I literally just owned the left-hand side of the court. I was beaten with so many winners down that side, but it was okay. That's better than the humiliation of fresh airing on your backhand. So, no, I haven't played any tennis for a few years now. Now I got to pick and choose what I really love. I like going to the gym, but I love golf during the summer in particular, as I was saying.
So Brian's been a little bit modest now. It's his turn, because earlier in the village, we were just over in HSBC's village, and they've got a sort of half-sized court, and we hit some balls, and you can see that he's played before. If he could, I think really he just needs to get a little bit stronger. I felt that upper body, he lacked that strength, so if he could get in the gym a bit more, then I think there's an opportunity.
A former rugby player on a half-sized court just doesn't seem quite right, does it?
Yeah, there was a few long shots.
A couple,
subtlety, not so. Not
we don't
so
normally. Yeah, in tennis, you don't normally have to shout 4.
They were handing out crash helmets to people walking behind them.
You mentioned you got quite nervous there playing, obviously, tennis. So when you're not playing a sport that's not your kind of main sport like you did in the Pro-Am.
Yeah.
Do you feel nervous?
Oh, it's brutal, yeah. Because you're, speaking for myself, you're outside your comfort zone. You know, when it's your profession, if it's, you know, playing tennis, you're going out there, you understand the routine and what's going on, and you obviously have a level of confidence in your own ability. But certainly, you know, with a sport like golf, I think it's sometimes harder because the ball's stationary. You know, in tennis, when it's coming at you quickly, you don't necessarily have time to think, and therefore you react and you just hit it. Whereas, you know, sometimes when you're out there with a stationary ball, there's people watching you. It's a hard ball. If you hit someone, it's going to do damage.
That's what it's
nervous. It's nervous times.
The hardest decision is when my pitching game is very, very bad, and when you're up by the green and someone is kind of walking by or passing through, and you're either trying to hit it quickly before they get there because you don't want to see the duff, or you kind of go, oh, I want to give this one a little bit more attention. You look from a couple of different angles and just wait for the traffic to pass through. There's a couple of crossover holes yesterday. I was like, quick nudge. It didn't matter where it went. It just once it made contact.
And with your chipping challenges,
yes,
what would you say is the maximum distance that you'll putt from off the green?
You see, that's why links golf is a real friend. I grew up on links golf, so you can get the putter out from anywhere, and no one looks strangely at you. So, provided there isn't a bunker in the way,
sure,
you can. Yeah, I've
20 yards.
I've putted from further.
Wow.
Yeah, I've putted from further. Yeah, I putted once from 60 yards out at the Dunhill Links. I'm not lying though. I knocked it into 10 feet. Right? Genuinely, there was a flag over a bunker. I was like, I can't get the ball to stop in there. I simply can't. Besides that, I was going to duff it because it was already in my head. So I hit. When my professional saw me with the putter out from 60 yards, he just turned around and burst out laughing. So, and it was like a half swing, bang, and then it just
10 feet.
Curled around, yeah.
Happy days.
And 2 putt from there. Lovely par.
Perfect.
Maybe that's your bread and butter. You should have done that yesterday, man.
Yeah, like that's the problem out here. Obviously, the grass is very different than natural links. But it's such a psychological game. Golf. It's about, as Tim said, even in squash or tennis, the ball is coming back at you, so it's reaction. Whereas the ball is just going to sit there and wait for you to hit it, and it's not going anywhere. So you've got it's you and it, and you can't blame anyone else. You can't blame any other variable other than an occasional bit of wind or a bad tennis elbow.
Oh yes,
they're the only things that are viable.
You've only mentioned that
in golf.
Yeah, certainly the 6th time you've mentioned that today.
We're only 10 minutes in as well, so I think. As well, you've had a 15-year career, a great career as well. How do you maintain such a long and successful career in the game, especially such a high-impact game too?
I think when I started out early in '99, the game had only turned professional 4 years, so we were really working it out for the first 4, 5, 6 years of my career. Made a lot of mistakes. We probably didn't understand what professionalism truly meant. And then the penny dropped, and the hard work and the sacrifices and the attention to detail and all of that came to light for us. And then all of a sudden we had some success. And I think when you taste a little bit of success, it gives you an appetite for more and more, and it works as a kind of snowball effect. So we were lucky in the first 7 years of my career I won nothing, and then the latter 7 an awful lot more. So I think it's just about understanding how best to prepare your body. Everybody's different. There's a phrase in America, in the NFL, called "my body, my business," and no one else cares for how you're going to prepare yourself. You know your body best. So get yourself doing all the stretching, all of the Pilates, all of the rehabbing, all of the extra work that no one sees away from the pitch. That's the detail about preparing you for 80 minutes on a Saturday. The reality as well about rugby is the older you get, the less likely you're going to be 100% fit. So you learn to deal with being 85% fit or 90% fit, and that just is a building up of kind of mental toughness over the course of your career.
Okay, and you mentioned as well with Emma, she was having the same meals every single day, and is that what it really takes?
Well, I think it's part of a routine. When does a routine become a superstition? And it's a sort of fine line. I think you probably see it in a lot of sports, but certainly in tennis, you see Nadal prepare for a match, and you know, it's absolutely crazy all the different things he'll be going through with his headband and, you know, getting everything organised. And you know, for someone like Radacano, who's certainly so young and so inexperienced, she's working out those routines because she's played so little professional tennis. But you know, being out there in New York, you know, she sort of said by the end of the tournament she was pretty fed up of eating the same thing for each meal day in, day out. But at the end of the day, if you feel like it's working, you're not going to change it, and it certainly did work.
Did you have a favourite pre-match meal, same one every time, or did you mix it up, or how did it work? And you know, are you prepping it for yourself, or is someone else doing that for you? Is your chef preparing it for you?
Most of the time, yeah, depending on which country you're in. But the funny thing with tennis is that unless you play the first match of the day, you don't actually know what time you're going to start. Whereas in rugby or football or golf, you've got your start time, your kick-off time, your tea time. Whereas tennis, you're often following a match. So, you know, if you're following a men's match in a Grand Slam, it's a best of 5 sets. Is it going to be over in 3 sets, 4 sets, 5 sets? So you've always got to have that flexibility built into the routine. So you're always trying to eat, you know, a little and often. You're making sure that you're hydrated so that, you know, if you go on in 20 minutes, you're ready to go. But if you go on in 2.5 hours, you're still relaxed and ready to go. So yeah, just again finding what works best for you. I didn't like you know, a sort of big pasta-based diet. I felt like it was a bit stodgy. It sort of sat in my stomach, and whereas I was more sort of you know, chicken and fish and you know, sort of a little bit more towards the protein side of things.
I feel a bit hungry now, do you? All this chat on food. And on the subject of food, I think we better chat about a certain tomato. I know you did it was a post-match interview once, thought-provoking, and it was good, you know, inspiring. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah.
I haven't heard this one. What's this about?
You remember your quote. Everyone loves a meme these days.
I think it was about 2009. So every day when you're in national camp, you get an itinerary, and then at the end of it, our bagman, a guy called Paddy O'Reilly, has known as Rala's thought of the day, and the thought of the day before was, knowledge is knowing a tomato is a fruit, wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad.
Clever.
So we did the captain's run the day before the game, and then I was in the dressing room just before my press conference with one of the boys, and he said, I bet you anything you can't get that into the press conference. And I said, okay, well, what's the bet? And he said, well, what you want? I said, okay, I know we're being we're filmed there. I said, you have to get a back sack and crack wax. So that was the bet.
It's been great working with you.
You're next.
So he said, all right. He didn't think I could do it. So went into the press conference, and I got asked a question. I don't actually even know what the question was, because that was my answer no matter what it was. And so it came out, and then there was like, everyone was kind of quiet for a second and then burst out laughing. And then it's a quote that has followed me around forever. People think that I had the smarts to come up with it. Can you imagine that? No, yeah. A brilliant quote
How
like
stupid.
that. Me?
How stupid can they be?
Surely I'm only capable of plagiarism. So
very inspiring.
People do send it to me a good bit on, you know, when they see a sign, like sometimes it's written up in tube stations, and people do take pictures and send it to me thinking, God, that really was a great one. Well done, you. Well done. And I say thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Have you ever had any situations similar to that? Or you've had awkward interviews or anything?
No, they've all been perfect.
Who's learning from who here? Okay, well, I'm going to start opening up some of the questions to the floor now, because I can see a few of you keeping eye contact with me, dying to ask a few questions. One gentleman over here to my right. Have you got a question to ask? Oh, wait, I'll come over here. Get my steps in for today.
Thank you very much. Yes, hello, my name is Sam. I have a question to Tim. You know what happened the last 2 weeks in Australia about Novak Djokovic.
Yeah.
So you are an expert in tennis. And
I'm an expert on visas as well. So any
visas
question,
as well,
yeah.
even better,
Yeah.
even better. You know, I had been following what happened to Novak, and he had been in this deportation status. And I personally was very disappointed about the behavior of the top 100 men tennis players. I didn't really see any support. I mean, the biggest support came from the female side of tennis.
Yeah.
So Alizé Cornet, for example,
I saw that.
Look, Djokovic has always stood for our causes, and he would have deserved from the men side some kind of support. So to say it bluntly, I found it a little bit lousy and not really courageous. So whatever you think of mistakes that Djokovic might have done, which he obviously did, but if somebody is in deportation status, don't you think that he would have deserved some kind of support?
Yeah, I think to address the sort of the situation with Djokovic first and foremost, for me, in the tennis community, I think for 4, 5, 6 months leading up to the Australian Open, we knew that this could be an issue with some of Djokovic's comments about whether he was, going to get vaccinated or not. And so for me, the disappointing episode is that it got to that stage. For me, whether it's Tennis Australia, the state of Victoria, or the Australian government, or Djokovic himself, to communicate, to come to the conclusion that if you get double vaxxed, you can come and play. If you're not double vaxxed, you can't play. And so to have the grey area of him actually to be in the country, then to be held in sort of detention for 4 days, to come out, to go back into detention, and to be deported, it was shocking, and it wasn't a good look for anyone, whether it's Djokovic or the tennis community. To answer your next question about support, I hear you. I think from the tennis players themselves, I think they were obviously reluctant to get involved. They're individual athletes who are, probably fairly selfish, who are concentrating on what they're doing, their preparation and their performance. And there's probably a few of them to think that if Djokovic is not in the draw, they've got a better chance of winning the event. But, is it a reflection on his popularity or lack of support? I think probably that also. But I think it was a very bad dark cloud over the event. It was not good for anyone, and for me, the next few weeks are going to be interesting to see what Djokovic does, because it would seem that it's going to be very difficult for him to play in different tournaments if he doesn't have a vaccination, and it would be a huge loss for the sport if he's not competing in our biggest and best events. So it's a little bit like saying you want to be a professional tennis player or a professional golfer, but you don't want to fly. If you don't fly, it's very difficult. And I think the world that we live in, if he's a professional athlete and he's not vaccinated, it's going to be hard for him.
Okay, thank you so much for your question. So we've gone from one event to another. We've obviously got the Six Nations coming up round the corner. I'd love to hear your predictions for that, really, because I know for you, broke the record for the most amount of tries scored at the Six Nations. Congratulations. So, tell me your predictions.
That'll be gone in a couple of years. George North is coming back from an ACL injury. I think he's a couple behind, and he's still only 30. So, it's one of the last records that I'm hanging on to dearly.
Hang on to it.
I think it's a really interesting one. I think it's very open, Six Nations. I think if you look at the November games, the form teams, France and Ireland, and with England in that conversation, Scotland, really good victory against Australia. Wales are always good in Six Nations, irrespective of their form. So there's 5 of the 6 teams straight off are going to be good. And that's why it's so difficult to win a Grand Slam, because you have to get yourself up for 5 very, very physical, very tough games that are very different than other international type games. So
I think we were wanting a prediction, though.
I'm about to come. I do think that Ireland won the Grand Slam in 2018, the hard route, which is this route, which is going to France and going to London and getting away victories. They're historically the 2 most difficult venues for us to go and win away from home. But yet, I think we're in a great spot. I don't know if we're going to win. I don't think we're going to win the Grand Slam. I think we'll lose one of those 2. I think we'll win our 3 home games. I think we might win 4 of 5, and it'll go down to points difference. I don't fancy there'll be a Grand Slam this year. So I'm going to think it'll be England and Ireland vying for the Six Nations on the last weekend.
Are you going to watch together, or?
He never invites me. I've been asking for tickets and...
I actually have so many tickets to the England game, so if I have any cancellations,
start a queue.
I'll keep you in mind. You're like,
what reserve am I?
5th reserve.
Am I? Okay, that's an improvement.
It's plausible.
It's moving in the right direction.
I asked Brian if he'd played tennis. Have you played rugby? Have you given that a go? You're right, Bill.
We had, again, in the village, we're relatively competitive against each other, and it's well worth checking it out because they've got a lot of different games, putting, chipping, they've got the tennis court, but they also had a rugby challenge, and it's a bit like the Coconut Shire but with rugby balls, and you've got to pass and knock them off, and I thought I did all right, but I did come second. But it's a long weekend, you know, it's not how you start, it's how you finish.
I like that. There's your quote. A tomato quote.
Yeah.
Right. Has anyone else got a question for either of these two in the crowd? Okay, I'm going to head over to you, sir.
It's obviously a real honour to have somebody who's excelled in both a team sport as well as what I see as a solo sport. And I hope I speak on behalf of everyone in thanking you for addressing us today. So it's no question, it's just a thank you.
Pleasure.
That was lovely. I enjoyed that. I didn't even say thank you.
No one's ever been that nice to us before.
I know you're a massive sports fan, aren't you, Brian? It's one of the last ones. Obviously, rugby, golf, football. You're a United fan, aren't you?
I am a United
Did you watch the game yesterday?
Yeah, I didn't see anything yesterday. It's been difficult being a United fan of late. Do you know what? I started following Man United in the 80s when it was United or Liverpool, and I happened to have cousins from Manchester, and they came over when I was a 5-year-old and said, "Who do you support?" And I said, I didn't know at that age, and they said, "Right, you support Man United." Those early years in the late 80s were hard to stomach with all my friends Liverpool supporters, and then we had 20 of the finest years, or certainly 15 of the finest years being a United supporter, but the circle has turned again, and it's pretty grim viewing. It looks like they've got a poor culture in the team. They've got a lot of individuals just playing for themselves. Ronaldo might sell shirts, but I don't think he's the guy that you want to build a team around at 36 years of age. So I don't know where United are going to go. I don't see them winning a Premiership for a few years yet.
Are you a football fan?
I'm a United fan as well.
I'm a United fan as well. The dream team up here. Here we go.
I'm Oxford United, though. So as well as my dad was Oxford United fan, I was brought up in Oxford, so I always keep an eye on them. I'm not actually sure what league they're in. I think they're in Division 1 at the moment. So I've been to the stadium once, but that was to get my booster jab. I've never seen them play. But so I support, if I'm going to support anyone, it's Fulham. Used to live near there as well. So they're sort of going, Premiership, Championship, back and forth. They're top of the Championship at the moment. So yeah, it's good.
You can have that one. Okay, well, I just want to thank both more guests. Well, anyone else? Any more questions on the floor? Any more? Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
You've been absolutely brilliant. We've got Tim Henman and Brian O'Driscoll here. Been great to hear your insight and everything and chat. And just one more thing. Predictions for the week. Who do you think will do it? Who do you think will cross the line? He's watching the screen there for reference for those of you who can't see.
Yeah,
he's having a little...
Yeah, I have not seen a whole lot of what's happened so far, but... you've always got to go with your own, don't you? Having been out for dinner with them last night with Shane and Porrig, I think Shane obviously has more chance of winning it than Porrig because of what he's managed to achieve here previously. He hit the ball really well yesterday, so if the wind does blow, I think he's got a great shot. But it's the same guys that Tyrrell's. When you love being in a particular area, it might be a different course. But they go back to, and they've got good muscle memory of good experience of being here and winning, and that counts for an awful lot in sport. Sometimes you just like the feel of a place, or you've got a favourite ground, or you like a particular, tennis, I'm going to say, surface to play on, whereas there's no different for these guys. Their eye just likes the look of certain courses around the world, and that's why you see repeat winners in the same locations.
And you, Tim?
On that vein, I'm going to go English. I'm going to go Tommy Fleetwood. I've played with him a couple of times, and he's such a good guy and such a great player. Like to see him, get off to a good start here. Okay, we've got English and Ireland in golf, and then we've also got it in the rugby coming up. So there we have it. Everyone's writing down their notes there. They're agreeing with you. Thank you so much. A round of applause for these two for today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
And also, anyone interested in corporate commentary, they'll be following around with some of the players this afternoon at 2 p.m. So if you're interested, go outside, sign up, and they'll get you sorted. Thank you.